Hello, everybody. My name is Ozymandias, the King of Kings. Look on my works, you mighty, and despair. Nothing remains beside. If you're wondering whether I have changed my name, I've just quoted a famous line from one of the famous romantic, poems, Ozymandias by P.B. Shelley. I'll connect this to my today's reading in a few minutes' time. Before that, let me also tell you, we often come across some strange and unbelievable stories in newspapers. Osman Ali Khan, the last Nizam of Hyderabad, was the richest man in the world when he was alive. But one of his descendants is living an impoverished life today in Istanbul. And Ziauddin Tusi, who was also the last descendant of Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, is surviving on a meager pension of 8,000 rupees provided by the government. So, all these things, in fact, speak in volume about the ephemerality of human glory, including the poem I quoted, where the poet also celebrates, in fact, the temporality or the impermanence of all such glories people embrace with so much of oblivious notion that they would stay forever. So today I've chosen a poem by A.K. Ramanujan, one of the of course popular Indian English poets. The Last of the Princess, that is the poem I have chosen to read with you today, and this poem is in fact prescribed for second semester BCom and BBA students of Karnataka University, Dharwad. So I think the few instances I quoted in the beginning of this talk has provided enough glimpse what would be in store for you through this poem. So let me straight away go into the poem and understand what he has got to offer. They took their time to die, this dynasty falling in slow motion from Aurangzeb's time, some of bone TB and others of a London fog that went into their heads, some of current trends, imported wine and women, one or two heroic in war or poverty with ballads to their name. They means the descendants or the kings of this famous dynasty has chosen to talk about Mughal Empire. And at least, if not as an optional subject, we all have read about the history of our country India, and we're all aware of how India has been a witness to constant foreign invasions. In fact, it was subject to such invasions by foreigners, including this Mughals, and it is quite natural to have a kind of hatredness towards all those who ruled us. I mean, other than the native people of this land, all the people from different parts of Europe who ruled us have left a permanent sort of disgusting notion towards them in Indians. So Ramanujan too doesn't seem to be an exception, because the subject of this poem, as it reads and looks, he has chosen to just parody the fall of Mughal Empire. So he seems to, like anybody, of course, with the employment of a black humor, be critical or little ironical of the way in which this dynasty, Mughal Empire, and their glory was destroyed or had come to an end. So after Aurangzeb, a famous ruler, so his heirs couldn't sustain that popularity, and it just was destroyed, or it just vanished out of the history. So they took their time to die. He says they means people who came after Aurangzeb, they took their time to die, which means they did not just disappear in a day or two, or in a year or two. There was a gradual decay. There was a gradual kind of disappearance, you can say, or losing of that glory, or disappearing of that glory, denigration of that richness. So they took their time to die. People died. This dynasty falling in slow motion, as it did not happen overnight. It just fell in slow motion, in the sense gradually, year after year, it just disappeared from the history. Slow motion. So in describing it as it disappeared or fell in slow motion, there seems to be a very sharp and intense kind of humor penetrated through that particular line from Aurangzeb's times. So they fell in slow motion. The dynasty fell in slow motion, and he describes the irony or the kind of mockery of this incident comes through this description. Some of Bone TV, if you are wondering how all these people died, don't imagine just because they are from royal lineage or family, don't think that they all died a kind of heroic death in war. Don't assume so. That is what he seems to say here. Some of Bone TV. I don't know why. What is so specific about Bone TV? I have my own interpretations, but may not be relevant, because TB in Purana. This is my interpretations, and since literature is open for any such analysis or interpretation, when you're talking about any literary piece, there is always scope for all such things, assumptions and understandings and all. So you cannot speak in absolute terms. So taking that liberty, I am trying to analyze this. Some of Bone TV, in our Purana, we learn through our reading, Pandu, father of all these 5 Pandavas, died of some strange disease, which came to be understood or interpreted as TB in later researches. So that is also called Panduroga. And people also have argued, and he developed this problem because of the excessive indulgence in sex, or because he lived a kind of course in those days kings used to have many wives and extramarital affairs and all. That's quite common. But I don't know, since this community, though neither I nor Ramanujan perhaps is prejudiced against any community, perhaps that is the truth. That is what seems to have been described, since they practice this polygamy. Maybe that's an attack on polygamy. So some of Bone TV, because there is enough few more evidence to justify this kind of claim. So some people, anyway, even if you think that naturally they just died of some disease, randomly TB is being quoted, that's fine. Some of Bone TB, others of London fog, and here London fog. So it is possible, and also it is there in the history. Some people have fled with mm, this Britishers after India got its independence. Or some people in fact felt it was their pride to possess white women as their wives. So maybe this shows the influence of English culture. In a metaphorical way, London fog means that if it is happening after the independence, of course it's a possibility. Fog can be metaphorical thing here. London fog may be indicative of some culture which these people couldn't take. If you take the dictionary meaning or literal meaning of it, maybe they suffered after they moved to London. They suffered because of that cold atmosphere that went into their head. They just developed fever and brain fever or such diseases, then they died of them. Some people died of bone TB, some people died of London fog that went into their heads. Maybe they developed that symptoms of some brain fever, so they died of it. Some of current trends, so this is what I said, the possibility of they going to London and not being able to perhaps withstand the reality. Some current trends, these people in Aurangzeb's time have practiced some orthodoxical perhaps traits or rituals and all such things, beliefs. But the current trends that they got to witness there in London perhaps was in sharp contrast with their belief, and they couldn't digest it. So they died of it. Either I don't know whether they committed suicide or they just withered away, not whimpering and whining, not being able to take all these things and being helpless. And some of imported wine and women. This is what. So there has been all kind of people who died of different reasons or causes. Imported wine and women. Even in general, this Mughals lived a very lavish and luxurious life. So they reveled in these things. So whenever you think of Mughal, the decorated silk curtains and their crowns and their living room and jewelry, the Arabian scents, all these things come to our mind. So imported wine and women, whatever they got hold of, they just drank, and it was in excess, in richness, they died. And women, that is why I said they practiced polygamy. So here perhaps not talking about the wives, maybe after going to London, after exposed to that atmosphere, which also practiced some liberality in terms of man and woman relationship. Anybody can have strike a relationship with any woman of their choice if she is willing to. So imported wine and women, they just became gluttonous enough to eat and drink everything. I mean, not just wine but also women. One or two, of course, heroic in war or poverty. Not that everybody died of these things. There were few exceptions. People, there was one or two died in heroic war. Of course, they participated in war and they had this self pride, and they always fought to defend the dignity of their family or their royal lineage, and they died a heroic death. One or two in war or poverty. It was also quite quite a dignified death to die in poverty instead of begging or surrendering or succumbing to temptations of the world. So, and of course they deserved some praise and admirations, and with ballads to their name. They were, of course, praised in through songs and poetry and some. So they made their name. At least they entered into some production of poetry, and whose name is still remembered. Then father, uncles, 7 folklore brothers, sisters so young, so lovely, the snakes loved her and hung dead, ancestral lovers from her ceiling. So, due to some complex use of this punctuation by E.K. Ramanujan, it becomes, the sentence becomes little ambiguous and opens space enough and space for interpretations. In fact, so nothing is ultimate, as I said. Father, uncle, 7 folklore brothers shows a big family of their lineage, and sisters so young quotes an person perhaps. You should also bear in mind the title of this poem, The Last of the Princes. He is just talking about a man who somehow survived all these things, who is perhaps alive today in modern time, in spite of all that distraction, all that decay that happened. This man somehow clung on to his life. So if he says father, uncle, 7 folklore brothers, all are related to this fellow, as his ancestors. So father, uncle, 7 folklore brothers. 7 folklore brothers may have some mythical reference or some reference in their Quran or religious books where they speak about 7 princes and all, where there was an episode where they hid inside a cave, these 7 folklore brothers, due to some fear of a monster, and then they came out and their progeny thereafter spread from them. All such stories are there. Anyway, so could be like that. Just an indication of a long historic lineage. Sister so young and so lovely, snakes loved her. So the ambiguity is here. Snakes loved her. Snakes. What do snakes stand for? In Christianity, snake stands for Satan, who revolted against Almighty God, as we could see it in Paradise Lost of Milton. Snake also symbolizes sex and temptation, because Satan came in the form of a snake to tempt Eve. So perhaps one interpretation could be the people who invaded have raped these women, including his young lovely sister. So she hung dead. She committed suicide. One possibility, because of the complex use of this punctuation, comma. As I said, it could also mean these people being ancestral lovers, he calls them, embracing an age-old belief of some custom which cannot be questioned in their religion, killed this young girl by hanging her from a ceiling, because there were lovers. She had few lovers, or perhaps that was prohibited and that was considered a taboo. So it's a kind of honor killing. That is another possibility. So snakes loved her and hung dead, these ancestral lovers, from a ceiling. Brothers, many wives. So either they died in war and TB and other such reasons, or they also brought this destruction upon themselves through their several complicating practices. That is another thing. So brothers, many wives, again indicative of polygamy. Their unborn, stillborn babies. So this is what I said. It's an attack on their lifestyle, very lifestyle, how they live. Their unborn, stillborn. Unborn means children, still in their mother's womb, and stillborn babies, babies who born dead, stillborn babies born dead, and numberless cousins. When you have you have such a big family, you are bound to have many cousins. So numberless cousins, not just human beings, royal minors and parrots in the harem. Since these people are royal people, they can afford to keep pets. It's quite natural. So these women, as a matter of pride, these queens and princes, kept minors and parrots as pets in their harem. Harem is a private place, a place for women, generally meant only for queens and princes. Everyone died, so nobody remained. Nobody, perhaps could hold on to life. Either out of humiliation they committed suicide, or some people killed themselves, or some people died in war, and some in perhaps in the intoxication of wine and women, some not being able to withstand different atmosphere, physical atmosphere, as well as the strange culture they were exposed to. They died of various reasons. So everyone died to pass into his slow conversation. Slow conversation means, now he is left to just whine and whimper in agony, being nostalgic of his past, regretting, or just thinking and being helpless. And I am from such a glorious lineage, and but I am living in this kind of helpless, poverty-stricken state. That could be the thing from the point of view of this man, the last prince. So everyone died to pass into a slow conversation, but he lives on. In spite of this, he lives on. Hey to long fingers, H-E-I-R, hey to long fingers. So he has inherited certain traits and even physical features of his ancestors. He has got his long fingers, which are quite unique to his lineage, his ancestors, his tradition, family, big family. He has inherited, got the big, long fingers of his ancestors, faces in the paintings, and there is a great resemblance in terms of his facial features or expressions. And maybe he has hung few photographs, portraits of his ancestors in his house, keeping them out of great pride, and he could just gaze at those things and whisper to himself, what kind of lineage I have been in fact from, but I'm living in this kind of poverty. So faces in the paintings, he has inherited all their features, not just physical features, a belief in auspicious snakes in the skylight. Again, belief in the auspicious snakes in the skylight means some beliefs perhaps related to human sexuality or marriage, or could be the reproduction or progeny, this sort of things which are very, very unique to this religion. So he has embraced them with great faith, despite all unconducive atmosphere for all these things. So a belief in auspicious snakes in the skylight. He lives on. Here comes a black humor, as I said. He lives on. Black humor means telling things in a very light way, things of serious kind, like about somebody's death or illness, somebody's perhaps sexual things which are considered to be taboos in some society, which cannot be spoken in explicit terms. So this man A.K. Ramanujan, seems to have employed that black humor to describe it. He lives on to cough. So he lives on to cough. Now he is suffering from some disease. He is not well. He physically is not all right. He's got some problem. Remember, and he just thinks of his past and sneeze, an indication of again underlying physical condition which is not right. A balance of phlegm and bile. Phlegm kind of secretion from the liver means the kind of which usually people suffering from tuberculosis develop. When they cough, they get this kind of thick fluid, and bile is also such thing. So when he coughs, he gets this bile and phlegm in his mouth, indicating that he is very weak, and he has got also other physical conditions, problems, alternating loose bowels. He's having dysentery, loose motion, and they are alternating. There comes the humor, because sometimes he will have loose bowels, loose motion, sometimes hard sheep's pellets, sometimes his excretion or excrement will be like sheep's pellet, indicating again some constipation, contrast to the loose bowels that he would have on some days. So he is struggling, somehow clinging to life desperately. And he has two girls he has, Honey and Bunny. So this is again another hypocrisy of this man, maybe the prince, because Honey and Bunny are typical names in Christianity, common names in fact. Does this mean he has converted? Could be. Or he's been living with a wife with different faith, or Christian wife, or he has surrendered to it for life, livelihood. We never know. Honey and Bunny go to school on half fees. He has found some school which perhaps don't take hefty fees. Maybe a reasonable fees that they could collect at government schools or something of that kind. So, which means showing his helplessness or poverty, is not being able to perhaps put them into some sophisticated schools, modern schools. Wife, heirloom pearl in her nose ring. A very small heirloom pearl means very small nose ring, which could be the last ornament to go, in fact, in a woman's life. Which means he has pledged to all her ornaments, and she doesn't have anything valuable on her body other than this heirloom pearl in her nose ring. But what is important is pregnant again. This is the mockery. This is the humor, black humor I said, and this is an attack on their polygamy and their attitude. In spite of he being so helpless and living utterly poverty-stricken life, and also suffering from different conditions, almost on the verge of death, he is not restrained from producing children. So his wife is pregnant again. He has already got children. The next line says his first son trained in telegraphy. A grown-up son is already working in telegraph company. Maybe he has other children also. Has telegraphed thrice already for money. So he has sent telegrams for money, demanding money, which means it is the third time he is receiving such request. Means to say that he has failed to meet their demands, meet their perhaps needs. So there has been a continuous request from his son for money. He is not able to send him. So there is this poem. On the whole, this poem, as I told you, is an attack on such practices of a particular you can say cultured people, and also celebrating the doom or fall of such dynasty, which also subjected Indians to a kind of slavery, or just to indicate that all human glory they are ephemeral, they are not permanent, and they will fade away, they will just uh, disappear, and people are bound to lose everything they would embrace with so much of love when they are alive. So this is the gist of this poem. I'll be back with a few more interesting poems. Till then, take very good care of yourself. Thank you so much.